here we have my 2023 Hyundai Santa Cruz. I wanted to do a full-up review on this. I've had it for 9 months, about 6,000 miles, so I've had a lot of soak time in the car to understand what I like and what I don't like. Here I have a summary of the things I liked and I didn't like, so you can look through this quickly and see if it's worth your time getting into the detail of the video. Overall, I really like this truck slash car, whatever you want to call it. I realize why it's a polarizing vehicle. You can love or hate the looks. I'm in the middle about the looks as far as that's concerned, but the reason I bought it is because I'm more of a car guy. I'd rather be in a two-seater all day long. And I had a Ram 1500, and it was just such a pain in the neck to park and kind of maneuver around. So comparatively, this is like a really nice ride, much more sporty feel, and it's just more of a car. You don't have to climb into it, you can kind of slide right in. So to me, for a daily driver, for someone that needs some type of truck bed, I feel like you can't really beat this thing. I mean, the Ford Maverick would be the same. I just honestly liked the way this drove a little bit better, and I like the interior a little bit better, although I like the Maverick as well. So from a features perspective, this is the Limited. So I got the, I guess you call it the top of the line one. I got that for a couple of reasons. Largely the larger engine I wanted, the overhead 360 view camera I wanted as far as for parking. I actually don't like these wheels at all. I have a set of the OEM. I think they're 18-inch versus 20-inch wheels. I think the base wheels are much nicer looking, so I'm going to change these out at some point. I already have a set of the base wheels on snow tires. But in the end, I needed a way to move some sheetrock if that day came, because I do a lot of home improvement work, and this made that really easy. And then I also wanted something that would be good for commuting, and I needed to have space for a young child that I have in the back. So when we go on road trips, we take this. What I like about the vehicle and what I don't like about the vehicle. I'll start with what I like. So it's relatively sporty, considering it's a 4,000 pound truck slash SUV, and I didn't want a truck like I had mentioned. So it is actually pretty quick. If you have the 2.5 turbo, it moves along pretty good. The utility is overly good. I feel like I can move 90% of what I would need to move. The trailer hitch process is spectacular. So if you didn't get the factory trailer hitch, which this happened to not come with, you can order it online, and it's like a 20-minute job to go bolt the hitch on, and they already have the electronic connector under there, so you don't even have to do any wire splicing of any sort. So that was a big plus. I'm not 100% sure that's on all of the vehicles. I've heard that some of them don't have that, but mine did, and I suspect going forward that connector is under there. It's pretty easy to get to under the back left bumper, kind of behind the tire. I do like the car height, so I've got a couple sports cars. Some of them are really low, and it's somewhat challenging to get in, but you're willing to sacrifice that when you're going into a sports car. But when it comes to going to work every day, I want to be able to slide in and out. So to me, this is the perfect height. I mean, I'm just short of 6 feet, and it's really easy to just kind of slide in and out of the car. So I kind of like that. Again, I mentioned the visibility cameras. So here we have the 360 camera. So this is only on the Limited, which is kind of unfortunate because it's a really nice option, but you can see all the way around the car, and of course it has the backup camera as well, and it turns with the steering wheel. There's also a bunch of options. So you can, okay, there's the tailgate, there's behind you, and then here's the sides of the car to make sure you don't curb your wheels. I really like that. I think all cars should have this overhead view going forward, but that was one of the reasons I went with the Limited. My favorite features is the blind spot. So when you turn your blinker on, you can see the side of the car on the left side or the right hand side. That is probably the best thing that Hyundai has that is different than any other manufacturer. We have a BMW X3 as well, and it doesn't have anything of that nature. And I'll tell you, this car has a pretty big blind spot, so you want those blind spot monitors. Another reason I went with the Limited is I really wanted the heated steering wheel. I've gotten quite accustomed to that in my last few vehicles. So to me, that was important for when I'm driving in the winter. I do like that. And the only way to get the cooled seats is also with the limited. I didn't think I'd like the cooled seats as much because I don't tend to use them, but I'll say that in this car they work pretty good. And I shouldn't say cooled, they're really ventilated. There's only a few manufacturers like Ford that does actual AC seats, but they do ventilate pretty well. We have a new X3 and it doesn't have that, and I was surprised at how much I actually use it in this truck. And lastly, I'll say the bed functionality and the storage box inside it, I think, is a pretty solid setup. Obviously a different day, as I now have the bed rails on the top of the car, or the bed racks. So I do love the utility of this. So you can fit 4x8 sheetrock in here. There are different clips here that hold the tailgate up at the right height so it levels with the side of the wheel well, so then it kind of sits nice and flat. Of course, the bed trunk. Got some stuff in here, but that's pretty useful. You can also put water in there. It has a drain for ice. I don't know how often I would use that, but at least it's there. So what don't I like? First, I don't like the dual clutch transmission. I feel like it's not really that smooth. I don't really understand what the advantage of a dual clutch transmission is in a car like this or truck like this. When you're talking about a sports car like a Ferrari, I get the fact that it snaps through the gears. This isn't even a particularly fast shifting dual clutch, so to me, I almost went with the lower model in order to get the torque converter, just because I feel like it's more tried and true. And my understanding is that this is a newer dual clutch. I think it's called a wet dual clutch, because the first round that was in, I think, a different model, maybe the Tucson, didn't do so hot. So I do wish it had a regular automatic torque converter transmission. I didn't like the trim options on these cars. I feel like they look okay. I mean, that's kind of subjective, but I like the looks of it myself. I mean, it's not stellar, but it does the job. But in order to get what I wanted, like, you know, home link buttons and the 360 camera, the only way to get that stuff was to get the limited. And that was annoying because it was a big price jump. I mean, originally I started looking at this car and I was in the low 30s, and then by the end of it, I got the fully loaded option. That was not great. When I was shopping for the Santa Cruz, they gave me a brochure, and this page was the most useful. This shows you what options are at what trim levels. I don't know if this has changed for 2024, but in any case, for 2023, I found this invaluable because it made me basically conclude that I needed to get the limited to get what I wanted. One thing I found odd is that in order to get your home link buttons for the garage door openers, you actually have to get the limited trim. That is annoying. They should have home link in every single version. This car gets pretty expensive at the limited range. I think I paid like $42,000 or something along those lines. Probably the most annoying thing I find about this car is if it is running and I get out. And I do this a lot because I have trash cans at the end of my driveway, so I've always got stuff in the back, and I kind of get out and close the door. I can't stand it because it wails, so here you go. Jumping out of the car like you normally would. The moment you close that door, it starts beeping, and it's pretty loud. I mean, it's just a constant tone, but it's loud, and it kind of goes off and it goes on, and then it goes off and then it goes on. It's annoying to me. I was disappointed when I found out that there are no proximity sensors. So you look at the bumper and you realize, oh yeah, I don't see those little circles. So I almost actually hit something because the camera is, you know, it's pretty good, but there are ways that it can kind of mask what's behind you. And I was waiting for the sensors to go off, and then I realized I don't have any sensors. That's pretty annoying. So if you own this truck and you don't have the 360 camera, it's going to be tough to avoid hitting things. I mean, look, you can always kind of put the energy into it, but it's definitely not ideal. All right, we get to the piano black trim. I can't stand piano black trim. I thought everybody learned from Tesla that that was a bad idea. So it is always dirty. It's not as annoying as I thought it would be, but, you know, it's super smooth as well. So you can see I put this aftermarket stupid carbon fiber thing. I didn't do that because I was looking to pretend I had carbon fiber. I did that just to avoid it getting all scuffed up. because, you know, if it was this plastic material, it's no big deal. But when it's, you know, this shiny plastic thing, everything that touches it that's hard is going to scratch it. So I'm annoyed that they did that. It's the same thing on the armrests as well. I'll be honest, it hasn't been as bad as I thought it was, like I said, but, you know, I don't know why anyone does that. I was surprised at the limited trim level that I didn't get any seat buttons, memory seat buttons, so that was a little bit disappointing. Not critical to me because I'm really the only one that drives it, but if I was sharing this with my wife with any degree of frequency, that would be annoying. The auto start surprised me. So you can start the car from an app that Hyundai has, which, by the way, is a monthly fee at some point. I bought it new, so I think I have a couple of years for free. It's annoying that they are getting all these subscriptions just to run your car, but that's kind of the future for most folks. But the weird thing is, so when it starts, like initially, it does flash the lights, but it doesn't leave them on, which I found really interesting. Every automatic car starting system I've had, once the car was running, it at least put the parking lights on. And it doesn't do that. Same with the key fob, which you can also start the car. It doesn't actually work that awesome, in my opinion. I feel like it never starts when I want it to. I probably could read the manual and hold it the exact number of seconds or something along those lines. But when it's running, there are no running lights, and I just find that odd. And when I'm like walking out into the parking lot, I would have expected it to be easier to go find the car, particularly if it's running. One thing I was excited about when I bought the limited version was that I had a digital key option. Well, that's interesting because it only works for Android. I don't know why it doesn't support the majority or the most popular phone brand being an iPhone. But yeah, I have an iPhone, and unfortunately I cannot use the digital key. I was thinking that would change over the months, but it hasn't as of yet. So that's just annoying, because if you're going to go through that trouble, then, you know, support both platforms, at least the large platforms. I do wish the rear seats folded down, so when I wanted to put something in here that was like a tote or something like that that is going to potentially beat up the leather, I could at least put the seats down. That you don't have. You do, of course, have some space under the seats. It's whatever they call that, 60-40 split or what have you. There's not an enormous amount of room. I've just got some covers in there, but you know, it's better than nothing. But when I do want to put something in here that I don't want to hit the leather, there's no real option. I don't love the dash. I feel like it seems like it's hard plastic. It actually does have a little bit of give, which I noticed later, but I mean, it just seems like a really inexpensive type material to put on the dash. I didn't need anything special, but if it was a little bit more, you know, less glossy and a little bit more texture to it or something, I feel like it would class it up a bit. Not a huge concern for me, but it would be nice if it had a locking differential. My understanding is that it's kind of an electronic lock and doesn't work that well. I've seen some videos of folks trying to off-road this thing. This is not an off-road vehicle. This is at most, you know, going up a steep hill on pavement. I wouldn't go beyond a dirt road, quite frankly, but I would not attempt off-road. It's just not that kind of vehicle. Now there's just a bunch of small things I didn't like. I don't like the 20-inch wheels at all, like I mentioned. I would much prefer the base ones, which I do have a set of. You know, the USB ports are all the older version as opposed to USB-C. That's like a mild annoyance at best for me. As far as the drive, it's a shy jerky with the dual clutch transmission, particularly off a start. I don't find it that bad, so, you know, again, I prefer the torque converter, but not so bad. There's jack tools that go underneath the seats. They take up some space. I really do wish they had some other options for that. Also, no USB ports in the center console. So interestingly, it didn't even come with this tray. I had to buy it on Amazon. So that was a little bit over cheaping it. There is no USBs in here, like I had kind of mentioned. They only have the USBs in this location. Those work out fine for me, and the wireless charging thing does its job. It's not great, but it does do its job. One thing I was upset about was the fact that the upper trim did not have wireless CarPlay. The good news is I got one of these USB connectors and kind of taped it up in here. I'll put a link in the description of what I got. It was less than $100, and it's been pretty much flawless. So I actually got all the benefits of the wireless CarPlay, which I was disappointed I didn't get by going to the limited. I actually prefer the lower trim that has actual buttons. I hate all these touch buttons. I can't believe manufacturers are still using them. I do appreciate the larger screen, but when it comes to, if you're going to have a button that doesn't move, make it a real button. That's my personal opinion. It's just annoying to have no tactile feel whatsoever. Things I'd kind of like to see, I would love to see where they put the bins on the side of the back of the tailgate, so to speak. So they have that on, you know, some Rams have that, and I believe pretty much all the manufacturers have it, but where you have actually a door here. It's really light on overall storage. I mean, it's intended to be small, so I kind of understand that, but that would be a bonus. I'm going to be putting a rack on the back of this, and I might put some storage containers in there, and I actually keep some totes in the truck bed most of the time. Another thing I would have liked is some interior color options. I really didn't want black. I would love to have had like a dark brown or a saddle type of color. But, you know, all they had was the black leather. That was the only option you could go with. That's the summary. So at least for me, I feel like it's really a great vehicle. It does all the things I want to do. I should add that I have had one issue. So I did have what appears to be somewhat rare but not non-existent. I had an issue where all the warning lights were going on, blind spot monitoring, turbo codes, as well as mass air fuel sensor codes. So I had brought it into Hyundai. They did a quick check on a connector, put it back together, sent me back out. It came back. Then they called corporate, and when I brought it back, and they had the car for a month, and they changed out, I believe, 2 engine harnesses and a turbo sensor. So look, it's under full warranty, no harm, no foul as far as that's concerned, other than being without the vehicle for a month. But if you had to pay for that repair, it's got to be pretty pricey, well north of probably $3,000. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but hopefully it was somewhat of a one-off. It doesn't appear to be widespread based on the forums, so I feel relatively comfortable. But yeah, that's something that I hope doesn't come back when it's out of warranty.